Hello, everyone. I have 12 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and get started. I want to welcome you to the Nutrition and Aging Resource Center's webinar, Using Data and Satisfaction Surveys when Providing Culturally Appropriate Menus. We are very excited to welcome Dr. Nancy Munoz. Dr. Munoz is an instructor at the University of Massachusetts Amherst Nutrition Department. She received her doctorate in clinical nutrition from Rutgers University School of Health-Related Professions and her Master of General Administration with a concentration in healthcare from the University of Maryland. For 35 years, she has functioned in a number of clinical nutrition and food service management leadership roles for Genesis Healthcare. Most recently, Nancy serves as the Chief of Nutrition and Food Service for the Southern Nevada healthcare system, overseeing the care provided to 72,000 veterans in the Las Vegas Valley. Nancy serves on numerous committees, including the National Pressure Injury Advisory Panel, Wound Source, Dietetics in Healthcare Communities, the Healthy Aging Dietetics Practice Group of the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, and several others. Dr. Munoz has experience in geriatric nutrition, using data to inform menu modifications, and creating culturally diverse menus based on evaluation. During today's session, Dr. Munoz will discuss the importance of using evaluation and satisfaction surveys when providing culturally appropriate menus. Before we get started, I want to mention some housekeeping items. First, we will hold questions until the end of Dr. Munoz's presentation. Our team will be monitoring the chat and the Q&A throughout the session. Please write any questions you may have here. We will start the Q&A session with the chat questions first. You can also raise your hand during the Q&A using the icon and ask your question orally. At the end of the Q&A session, we encourage everyone to complete the evaluation that is accessible with the QR code or the link that will be placed in the chat. The information you provide will help us during our next webinar. The Nutrition and Aging Resource Center is continuously working to improve the accessibility of events and content. Automated closed captioning will be provided for this webinar. Participants can enable captions by selecting the CC in the toolbar or closed caption in meeting options. This webinar will also be recorded and made available on YouTube. The video with captions revised for precision will be shared via the Resource Center's newsletter. If you have any questions about captions or additional accommodation requests, please email nrcna@iowa.gov. Finally, we did not seek prior approval for this event for CPEU credits for dietitians. You can still receive credit under the CPE activity type 171 teleseminars and webinars. Please visit the CDR website for further instruction. Nancy, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Let me just share my screen. All right. Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to be with you today. Certainly it's morning for me. I know it's afternoons in some parts of the country. Today we're going to talk about collecting data to ensure that we capture the voice of our customers and our clients as we provide culturally appropriate menus. As I was preparing for this presentation, I came across this quote, and it made me do a double take when I read it. Certainly, it made inclusion personal for me. I don't know if it's because I happen to like dancing, and I feel that that's personal, but regardless, diversity is being invited to the party. Inclusion is being asked to dance. In our case, diversity is being invited to the party. Inclusion is being asked to bring a covered dish or help plan the menu for the events that we're attending, which I think it's relevant and important. These are my disclosures, and I really have no conflict of interest for this presentation. Our objectives today are that you will utilize and evaluate data to make menu and food system modifications that actually meet the institutional constraints, cultural, and nutritional needs of your customers, that you understand the use of customer satisfaction surveys as a tool to collect data and make systems changes, and also that you feel comfortable implementing purposeful quality improvement activities. I know that many organizations require that we do quality improvement activities. It should never be something that we use to just check off the box. It should be an activity that we do that's going to help us do better and provide better services. Okay, I would like to know a little bit about what you're doing right now to collect data. How do you collect the voice of your customers? So please post in your chat box, whether you're doing customer interviews, whether you're doing surveys, whether you just have casual conversations with your customers, or if you just don't have a formal way to collect customer input, but you manage to informally do something. Great. So awesome. There's a huge variety of things that you guys are doing, and most of you are doing all of the above in terms of customer interviews, service, casual conversations. Some of you are don't have a formal way of collecting data, but do so. So certainly, we're done. I have nothing else to share with you. No, I'm kidding. It's nice to know that this is really not new information for you. And if nothing, it helps to reinforce the importance of what you do. Before I get into the discussion of quality improvement activities and data, I'd just like to spend a little bit of time talking about your customer base. The older adult population is expected to continue to grow significantly in the future. Growth has slowed down somewhat in the 1990s because of the relatively small number of babies that were born during the Great Depression in the 30s. But the older adult population is beginning to increase again, and it's almost half. As almost half of the baby boomer generation is now reaching the age of 65. Right now, about 46% of the baby boomer generation has reached that age. By 2040, there's going to be about 80.8 million older adults, and this is more than twice of what we had in the year 2000. The 85 and older adult population is projected to be more than double from 6.7 million in 2020 to 14.4 million in 2040. And this is a huge 117% increase. Just as a note, from 2011 until 2030, 10,000 baby boomers will turn 65 each day in this country. So that's huge. And for those of us that are in geriatric care, or that is our passion, we are certainly going to be employed for life. Currently, 23% of older adults are of a racial or ethnic minority. By 2030, this proportion is going to increase by about 28%. In 2020, 9% of older adults were African American, 5% were Asian American, less than 1% are actually American Indian, Alaska Native, Pacific Islanders, or they identify themselves as being from two or more races. Individuals of Hispanic origin constitute about 9% of the population. Interestingly, in 2010, only 10% of all the people who were members of a racial or ethnic minority were aged 65 and older. In 2019, this number has increased to 21%. Reducing health disparities and advancing health equity in an aging population that is growing both in size and racial and ethnic diversity requires interventions that address their unmet needs for resources, including sufficient access to healthy foods. Again, these numbers reinforce the need and the importance for programs and services for this segment of the population. It also reinforces the need to know your customers and understand their needs. There are many changes that are considered a normal component of the aging process. As we age, we see changes such as decreased lean soft mass, muscle mass, and skeletal mass. We see changes in body systems such as decreased elasticity in blood vessels. We see that there's decreased bone density, the GI tract slows down, and the list goes on and on. As we age, we also see changes in sensory perception. Sensory perception has an impact on an older adult's appetite. Very often, we see that there's decreased ability to taste and smell. And with that, our older adults lose interest in food. When there's a decline in the ability to smell, there's a change in flavor perception. And this is when we get the complaints from our customers that, the food doesn't taste like anything. They're saying the food doesn't taste like anything because they can't smell. The ability to taste for salty and bitter is affected more than the ability to taste for sweet and sour. That is why very often our customers will not eat their meals, but they always have room for dessert. That is something they can enjoy, they can taste. And of course, as we age, there's reduced salivary function, and this can be both biological or a medication side effect. But if you don't have enough saliva and you put just dry food in your mouth, it takes a lot of effort to manipulate that and get it to the back of your mouth so you can swallow it. It just makes it very difficult for our older adults to really enjoy their meals. With increased age, we also see that there is a decrease in functioning. In 2020, 18% of adults aged 65 and older reported that they could not function at all or had a lot of difficulties with at least one of the ceased functioning domains that you see on this slide. Specifically, 21% had trouble seeing even when they were wearing their glasses. 29% had difficulty hearing. 39% had problems with mobility. 8% had difficulty with communication, and that's either understanding others or being able to make themselves understood. 28% had trouble with cognition, and 8% had difficulty with self-care. In 2020, the median income for older adults was approximately $26,000, almost 27. But there's a big disparity between the income for men and women. Men had an average income of $35,000, almost 36, and women only had an income of 21%. Not 21,000, I'm sorry. In 2020, 5 million people aged 65 lived below the poverty line. Another 2.5 million were near poor. And about 5% of family households with an older adult householder had incomes less than $15,000 a year. This data is pre-pandemic. Can you imagine what these numbers look like right now? In 2020, 6.8 of the older non-Hispanic white population was poor compared to the higher percentages of racial and ethnic minority groups. 17.2% of African Americans are considered to be below the poverty line, 11.5% of Asian Americans, and 16% of Hispanics are all below the poverty line. Okay. The USDA defines food insecurity as a lack of consistent access to enough food for every person in a household to live an active, healthy life. In the United States, nearly 8.6 million adults are over the age of 65 experience food insecurity. Food insecurity is associated with increased mortality. There's decline in functional status, there's impaired cognition, there's immune dysfunction. Certainly these individuals have higher hospital admissions and readmission rates. Food insecurity is especially pronounced among older adults from racial and ethnic minority groups who experience the threat of hunger at more than twice the rate of white older Americans. Aside from that, older adults have very specific nutritional needs. There's a report that came out, it's called the Global Burden Disease Study. And this report has really good news and somewhat bad news. The good news is that healthier diet could save 1 in 5 lives every year. And the second good news is that diet is a modifiable risk factor, which basically if you change your eating habits and you change your lifestyle, do a little bit of exercise, chances are your health and your longevity will improve. The bad news is that 10.9 million people die every year due to poor diets. Diet-related illnesses such as cardiovascular disease, diabetes, and cancer represent about 16% of disability-adjusted life years. And poor diet habits such as high sodium intake and low intake of whole grains, fruits, and vegetables, it's considered an equal opportunity killer. There's no region in the world right now that meets the recommendations for whole grains, fruits, and vegetable intake, which I find not only concerning, but a little bit scary. Nutrition is a major determinant of health status. Food as a source of nutrition is not only critical to one's physiological well-being, but also contributes to social, cultural, and psychological quality of life, which is huge with our older adults. Primarily, nutrition helps to promote health and functionality. I'm sorry. It also it's an effective disease management approach that lessens chronic disease risk, slows disease progression, and reduces disease symptoms. We need to teach our customers to promote a good nutrition status by ensuring that they have a well-balanced diet, by ensuring that they maintain a healthy weight, and ensure that they consume sufficient fluids and stay hydrated on a consistent basis. There is a link between chronic disease, malnutrition, and clinical outcomes. For instance, an illness episode in one of our customers can contribute to anorexia. With decreased intake, decreased weight, and strength, this can contribute to decreased ability to eat. With weight loss, we see that there's decreased muscle mass, depression, and isolation. With disease and medication, there's possibly nutrient drug interaction. Medical conditions can impact energy and protein intake, protein needs, actually at a time when both the protein and calorie needs are high, and the body is very inefficient at utilizing nutrients. And this can contribute to poor healing, malnutrition, infection, and poor outcome. And the cycle goes on and on with our older adults. ACL nutrition programs are designed to promote general health and well-being for older individuals. These services are intended to reduce hunger, food insecurity, and malnutrition in older adults. They also help to promote socialization of older individuals and also promote health and well-being of older people by assisting them in gaining access to nutrition and other disease prevention and health promotion services. The program also is meant to delay the onset of adverse health conditions resulting from poor nutritional status, poor nutritional health, I'm sorry. These programs target adults age 60 age 60 and older who are in social and economic need, with particular attention to low-income older adults, minorities, those who live in rural communities, those with limited English proficiency, and those at risk for institutional care. About 5,000 providers, which some of you are here today, and thank you for that, serve more than 900,000 meals a day in communities across the country. By regulation, the meals provided must adhere to the current dietary guidelines for Americans and provide a minimum of 1/3 of the dietary reference intakes. They have to meet state and local food safety and sanitation requirements. And on top of that, they have to be appealing for older adults. As we plan our menus, we should remember that older adults have increased needs for protein, vitamin D, calcium, and fiber. Calcium helps control blood pressure and bone health. Vitamin D helps to absorb calcium from foods. Our older adults need to consume at least 200 milligrams of calcium per day. Vitamin D, for those 70 years and older, they should consume about 800 international units per day. It's important to ensure that the meals have adequate amount of fiber. Fiber is essential for GI motility. Inactivity and certain medications can contribute to constipation. So increased fiber can help to also helps to decrease cholesterol and regulate blood sugars. Ability to absorb B12 from food decreases with age. So low vitamin D B12 levels often can cause fatigue and problems with concentration, amongst many other symptoms. When there's a severe vitamin B12 deficiency, this can cause memory loss and depression. And of course, we want to make sure that we encourage our older adults to drink more fluid. As we age, there's a decreased thirst sensation. So it's important that we continue to encourage. The benefits of nutrition programs serving older adults are very well documented. Among the many favorable outcomes, the program shows that participants have improved nutritional intake, more resources for health promoting activities and medical care, and also provides support so that functionally impaired older adults can remain in their homes. And this is huge for many people. Research has specifically shown that the meals provided can contribute anywhere from 1/3 to 2/3 of the recommended dietary allowance for energy and nutrients. And also participants who receive home delivered meals are less worried about their ability to remain living at home independently. Overall, the nutrition programs offered to older adults have a great reputation. And this is a testament of the work that it's being done with these programs. And we need to make sure that these programs continue. Survey results that were published in 2020 tell us that 92% of congregate meal participants and 96% of home delivered meal participants rated the programs as good, very good, or excellent. Staff was also rated very positively. Most people will recommend the program to family and friends, which is huge. As you can see on the slide, participation of older adults from diverse populations is somewhat limited, and this is data from 2017. But data shows that less than 1% of home delivered meal participants were Asian, 8.7% were Hispanic, and 18% were Black. This tells me that there is opportunity to reach, I guess, the neediest of the needy to ensure that they participate in these programs. There are a number of barriers that limit program participation for diverse populations, and this includes misinformation due to language barriers. There's lack of menus that can accommodate dietary restrictions and cultural preferences. There's discomfort with staff due to cultural and linguistic differences. And also, at times, transportation to these congregate meal sites can be a challenge for this population. Right, let's talk a little bit about menu standards. As previously mentioned, the menus must provide 1/3 of the RDIs. To promote a good customer experience, menus should reflect the religious, cultural, and ethnic needs of the population that is being served. Customer input should be considered. We need to seek it, and we need to include it in our changes, in our menus, in the services that we provide. If we don't do that, people will lose interest and they'll start participating in our surveys. To ensure customer satisfactions, our menu should include personal choices. Food must be culturally appropriate. Customer preferences must be considered when developing a food plan or a menu. And the accommodation of customer needs and preferences is essential to creating an individualized home-like environment for the patients to participate in our programs. Offering culturally inclusive foods in facilities has the potential to support mental well-being and even promote joy amongst older adults. It can foster a sense of belonging and community in a place where it can be difficult to form relationships. It could also help customers and their families understand the types of treatment-aligned meals they can prepare and eat at home. This is a great opportunity to mirror, to show to the customers what healthy meals look like and hope that it will have an impact on what happens at home. There's a lot more to food than the nutrition component. Culturally inclusive food may also be critical to helping patients feel they are respected and are being treated with dignity. And this is especially the case when they may be adjusting to language differences or unfamiliar to our healing traditions. Conducting quality improvement activities is essential to ensure that our business stays relevant, that we actually have the voice of our customers. Due to all the benefits associated with the nutrition program, it is imperative that the nutrition services make itself more accessible and appealing to racial, ethnic, and cultural minorities. Especially, as I mentioned before, this segment of the population has a low participation rate in the program, despite having a greater risk of food insecurity and nutritional risk. A state that participates in the OAA programs, they must ensure that the meal providers solicit the advice and expertise of meal participants. So it's really not a choice. We have to do this. As I was reading to prepare for this presentation, I came across what California does, which probably based on the information that you provided at the beginning of this presentation is not foreign to you, and is what most people do. But certainly in California, the meal planning process must not only include an evaluation of the menus for nutritional adequacy, but also includes procedures for obtaining the participants' inputs regarding the meals that are being offered. It incorporates determining food preferences, including food likes and dislikes, and certainly cultural food preferences are included. And this should be the standard for all of our programs. The discussion for the remainder of this presentation is going to touch on understanding our customers and the use of data to drive and change or improve our processes. When we're evaluating our programs, we should look at the reason for action. Why do we want to change in our program? We should have a really good understanding of what our current state is. What does my program really look like? And identify issues that need to be addressed. Certainly, we want to look at the target state or that ideal state that we want to get to. We want to do a gap analysis between our current and the target state to make sure that we close that gap. We want to look at a number of solutions and do some rapid experiments to see what works, what doesn't, and what are the things that we need to be implementing in our programs. We want to make sure that we have a completion plan, and after that plan has been implemented, that we go in and we evaluate our confirmed state. And along the way, we want to make sure that we're actually reflecting on lessons learned so that it can help us make our programs even better. And I'm going to touch a little bit on all of these topics. When we're looking to change our processes, we have to have a really good reason to decide to change something. We have to have identified a problem. So, what problem are you trying to solve? What process are you trying to improve? And what is the scope of your project? It's really important that you know that you have a well-defined scope of your project, where it starts and where it ends, because otherwise we get distracted by all kinds of noise and other areas that maybe it's not what we should be focusing on, and we lose track of what's really important for our customers. In terms of our current state, we should know what is working and what is not. What is your baseline metrics? What are your measurements? For instance, do we have a 50% customer satisfaction score? Do we have a really high customer satisfaction score, but only 20% of the people are providing feedback? That makes a huge difference, because you might have amazing scores, but you don't have the voice of all of your customers. So we're missing opportunities. In terms of the target state, where do we want to be? What is your aim? Where do you want to go? What do you want your new metric goals to be? How much of an increase do you want to see? Do you want to see that, your scores move from 50% to 75%? Those are all things that you make part of your plan. We certainly want to look at the gap between your current state and the ideal or the target state. We want to evaluate the gap between your current state and the target state, so that it helps you define the root cause of the problem, and it helps you to identify barriers. A lot of times we are quick to go to the solution without looking at the root cause of the problem. And when we miss that step, we're going to continue to have problems, because we're not attacking the real problem. We might be attacking problems around the real root cause. Once your gap is defined, what are some possible solutions? You want to try some of the solutions that you identify. I suggest that you use the plan, do, study, act. So plan, what are your solutions? Develop a plan for implementation. The do part is execute that plan. The study is your plan working? Is it not? And if it's not working, then you have to take some corrective action. As part of the planning and implementation process, practice a little commitment management. Who's going to do what by when, and make sure that everyone understands what role they play, what they're responsible for completing, and what the due date of uh, the, their section of the project is. Once the process has been put in place, check back in 90 days. Is the process still in place? Is it working? If it is, then the new process is confirmed, and you can move off to other things and just do um, surveys on a consistent basis at a certain interval to make sure that things will stay in place. And again, always take time to reflect on the lessons learned along the way. Satisfaction surveys are a very quick and inexpensive tool to collect data from your customers. Customer satisfaction surveys are a form of research in which you ask your customers for their views on issues that indicate how well or how badly your program is performing. Now, sometimes it can be a little hard to see what our customers are thinking. So, we just kind of have to get over that and deal with whatever feedback we get. Satisfaction surveys are a very, very valuable tool for helping you gain a better understanding of your customers' requirements and concerns so that you improve your standards of service in line with customer needs. You can be doing wonderful things, what you consider wonderful things from your perspective, but if it's not important to your customer, you're wasting your time and you're wasting resources. By monitoring the customer satisfaction and responding to problems, you can improve customer loyalty. It's a nice way to show people that you care. The feedback that's collected from the customer satisfaction survey provides valuable feedback on the issues that are important to your customers. You can design surveys to find out how satisfied they are with different aspects of the service that you offer. But the feedback can highlight problems that you were not even aware of, giving you an opportunity to respond and take remedial action immediately. A satisfaction survey is a tool to help you listen to your customers. It provides a channel for customers to express their views. Again, this is their voice. It's an opportunity to make their needs known. This is important in an environment where increasing number of customers share their views and opinions on social media that are totally outside of your control. We live in a world of referrals and reviews. And if you don't think that that touches your program, I truly encourage you to think again, because social media, referrals and reviews are alive and well. And many people, especially the younger generations that are going to be putting their parents and their grandparents in these programs, will look at reviews before they put people in programs. Asking your customers for their views on their services indicates that you're prepared to listen to the customer and take their views into account. And that's pretty huge. Analyzing the responses to a satisfaction survey highlights your program's strength, but it also highlights your weaknesses from your customer's perspective. Use the scores to focus on areas of your program that achieve very low satisfaction scores, and then prioritize improvement programs so that you can remedy any serious problems in these areas. The improvement programs can take the form of changes to program processes, to menus, even employee training. You'll be surprised what you find out when you just ask the right questions. We do surveys because we want to measure progress. A single satisfaction survey gives you a snapshot of your customer's view at a given point in time. By conducting a number of surveys over a period of time, you can actually measure the results of any improvement programs you have undertaken. This tells you a story about your program. It might be that your scores were low and you made some changes to your program, then your scores came up, then they leveled for a while because that intervention really was doing well and it hit the customer's needs. Might go down a little bit because something happens, but if you're constantly trying to find out what your customers think, it'll really help you get to the level that you want to and maintain that level. It's important to ask the customer the same set of questions in each survey and analyze the results to assess progress. If we change the questions, that we're not measuring the same thing, so we're not comparing apples to apples. So when you develop your survey, make sure that these are questions that are important to you, that are going to help you capture what you need so you can improve on the services that you provide. Use survey results to perform data-driven quality improvement activities. You know, the data you are collecting, the numbers, the results should be helping you focus on, the lowest score that needs to be looked at, just to make sure that you take care of issues immediately. In some areas of healthcare, customer satisfaction scores are part of the quality of care equation, and this drives reimbursement. In the case of the OAA programs, it can drive program sustainment or increase the resources of the funds that are allocated to these programs. According to the Agency for Healthcare Research and Quality, patient satisfaction is about whether a patient's expectation about a health encounter, in this case, our meals, were met. The goal of our program is to reduce hunger, promote socialization, promote health and well-being in older adults. Having a venue to capture the voice of the customer is really truly essential so that we can achieve the program goals. And these goals are very noble. And for anybody that works in elder care, geriatrics, these are words to live by, especially if you're a dietitian, certainly words to live by. There are two basic guidelines for service providers to follow to do well with a diverse population, and this is really simple. Treat others how you want to be treated and show that you care. It's that simple. You cannot deliver on these rules if you do not know what your clients think about the services that you're providing. We need to know what's important to them. To have a successful program, you need to know your participants. You need to gather feedback both formally and informally to address the needs and desires of your audience. The more you can refine the meal to meet their needs, the more they're likely to participate, meet friends, and bring others to your program. Do not forget to include your staff. Engage your staff anywhere from your kitchen managers, cooks, volunteers, servers. Include them in the brainstorming sessions to select interventions that you want to put in place once you've collected data from your participants. The closer you are to that patient, the more information you have about what participants really want. They're more in tune with what's important to them. So you want to include those people in your brainstorming session to make sure that it actually hits the mark. We want to ensure that meals are sensitive to a range of cultures. So, hire volunteers that speak languages common to your community. Share resources in multiple languages and offer meals that allow flexibility, like salad bars. If you have a salad bar, you can have foods from every possible ethnic group. Someone should be able to find something to eat from a salad bar. And of course, let's make sure that we reflect the diversity of the neighborhood that we are providing services in. Right? I cannot emphasize enough the importance of knowing your customers and knowing your community. A lot of efforts go into developing culturally appropriate menus. Again, know your community. Before you write a menu, you need to know who you're writing it for. So if I were to open a facility in my county, and I live in Clark County, Nevada, my community has 2.3 million people. Racially, 39% of the population here in Clark County are white, 32% are Hispanics, 13% are African American, 11% are Asian, and 5% claim to be two or more races. 15% of the population is over the age of 65. So this is my client population. About 15% of the people are in the poverty line. The ratio of male to female is about 50-50, so that's even. Interestingly, 6% of the population are veterans. That's why I have a job here. In terms of the facility pool, I'm looking at possibly 353,000 older adults could be potential participants in our programs. Out of these, probably 46% are in the poverty line. Again, there's a fairly even distribution between Hispanics and whites, and roughly a third are African American and Asian. When you look at these, this is a really complex demographic picture. As you know, we said in the introduction to the webinar, one size does not fit all. What should my menu look like? And we're not creating a menu as part of this presentation. That is beyond the scope of this presentation, but having the data, having the description of the population of my community should be a great start to help me kind of, start in the right direction in trying to make sure that I'm meeting the needs of my patients. I'm sorry, customers. So let's try to tackle one problem together. And this problem might be more common than we think in some of our programs. My problem in my facility is that on a daily basis, 25% of the program participants consume less than 50% of the meal provided. Many of the Spanish-speaking program participants report that the foods that we're offering to them, they're not familiar with them. So I am putting a lot of effort to produce meals that a lot of people are just not eating. I have a really healthy trash can, but I am not going to be able to meet the needs of the program or the goals of the program unless I do some changes to what I'm doing. Why do I want to solve this problem? We want to meet the mission of the program. We want to reduce hunger. We want to promote health and wellness in our customers. We have to have a start and an end of the process. So for this example, I'm going to start by menu planning, and the end of the process is going to be when the when the participants receive the meal. So anything in between, meal planning, food production, recipes, preparation, that's all within the scope of my project, because I want to make sure that I have a very ethnically sensitive menu when I'm done.
Nancy,
Yes,
per your request, we're about 17 minutes out.
thank you. I will speed it up. Again, my customer satisfaction is less than 50%. So I need to figure out what's my target state. I want to make sure that I have a culturally appropriate menu and that it's going to help me increase customer satisfaction with my patients. Doing my gap analysis, I discovered that the root cause of the problem is that the menu has been in place since the program was implemented, and there's been a shift in ethnicity in my community, and it hasn't hit my radar. I haven't figured that out. So now that's why I'm getting bad surveys. So now I have to redo what I'm doing to make sure that I capture this. So there are some possible solutions to this. I can have a menu committee, or I can collect recipes from my participants and incorporate them into my program. Once I decide which one of these interventions would probably be easier to implement or probably help me get the biggest bang for my buck, then I'm going to do my plan, do, study, act, and develop my plan. Once the plan is implemented, 90 days after that, I am going to make sure that it's confirmed that it's in place. If it isn't, I have some more work to do. If it is, then I'm good and I'm done. We use the My Plate in this country to teach about healthy eating and to translate the guidelines for Americans. I just want to make you aware that almost every country has their version of My Plate. And it's great if when we're trying to do any kind of education to our patients that we use the plate that they can relate to. If you take a good look, all these plates, the one from Puerto Rico, Venezuela, Japan, Dominican Republic, the pictures, the graphics are foods that people can relate to, foods that they can recognize. And that's what I want you to get out of this slide. We do a great job at making sure that people, we translate things from English to their languages, but let's grab the graphics as part of what we're doing. How do I provide culturally appropriate menus? We've talked about all these things. Take a look at your menu population, evaluate your program, get program participants involved, and listen to what they're saying. There's different ways to get people involved. You can have food committee, program participant council. You can do polls. Taste tests are fun. They can be a great activity to get people involved. And if the food is well accepted, you make it part of your program. And of course, surveys, you can't forget about surveys. So in general rules, the one thing that I really want you to be mindful of it's evaluate your patient population. They will help you figure out what is it that they want, what is it that they need to meet their needs. Get volunteers that speak different languages in your programs and translate your information. Think a little bit out of the box. Offer meals that are served in a bowl. Offer a spoon and chopsticks instead of a fork and a knife. If the patient eats with their hands, offer a bowl of water and a towel with their meals. Condiments is an easy way. Do hot sauce, soy sauce, chili sauce. Don't forget about snacks. Do snacks that are appropriate for your patient population, and have your menus in different languages. Equality, it's in our programs, everyone gets 1/3 of the RDAs per meal received. Everybody gets the same thing. Equity, it's everybody gets 1/3 of the RDAs per meal received in the form of culturally appropriate meals, and everyone gets what they need. And there's a huge difference between those two. We're not going to do this for the sense of time, but what I really want you to get, and hopefully do something in the next 3 months, change something in your program, get to know your customers, evaluate the appropriateness of your menus, given your current site profile. Institute a survey method to collect food preferences and allow the patients to have a voice in menu choices, and make data-driven decisions. Any questions? And I do have some references that you can click on. Thank you. I'm done.
Thank you, Nancy. I'm sorry I didn't want to do your warning, but you asked me to. So
no, and I'm glad you did. That's really important. So I'm good.
All right.
Well, I'm going to stop sharing.
That's fine. And then I have some folks have submitted questions, so we'll start with those first. One that has been pretty common is if you will share your slides, and I believe that you will. So
yes.
We'll make those available. And so one question was, what if what our clients want is outside of the nutrition guidelines we need to follow? Basically hot dogs and ham.
All right. As a good dietitian, I will tell you foods in moderation. And I have a post-acute care background, a long-term care background, and not so much the ham, but the hot dogs are very something that people like. I guess those highly processed foods are not good for anyone, but they have rich taste. It's something that they can still taste. I would offer them once in a blue moon, do it as a monotony breaker, as a special. So that some things are not the best, but you can offer the most nutritious foods, and if they don't eat them, we've accomplished nothing. So if you're given something they like once every 3 months, I don't know, establish a time frame that's reasonable. I would offer once in a while, just to let them know that we heard. I would do education with it. Again, not my favorite thing. I think I read someplace that every time you eat a hot dog, you lose 2 minutes of your life. But if it's nothing or that hot dog, as somebody who's worked in geriatrics for over 35 years, I would give them the hot dog.
Thank you, Nancy. Our next question is, and it's kind of long, so I'm going to read it all and then I can ask it again.
Okay.
Can you talk more about how to prioritize the feedback to address? Some things seem very important, but are a big lift and will take a long time. Some are easier wins, but might not be as impactful. Do you have recommendations for prioritizing feedback and keeping the long-term goals from falling through the cracks when staff are busy and juggling multiple projects or priorities?
I can identify with this question more than you'll ever know. This is my life. This is how we work. I usually do like to do things that take no effort and might have little impact, just like low-hanging fruit, takes no effort. Let's get that done. First of all, we can tell people that we did it, and maybe it wasn't on their radar, but might think, oh, that's not so bad. It also helps you with your staff who's trying really hard to like get things done, and they look at those big projects and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm leaving, this is just not worth my time. But if you give them small wins, then it puts your staff in a better mood, and it makes them feel successful. We got something done. And then put the plans in place for those long range heavy lifting plans, and just keep people informed. Tell them, this is our plan, this is the time frame, this is what you expect to see. I think that if people know what's coming, they're patient with us. They just need to know that something is happening.
Thank you, Nancy. I love that answer, by the way.
Thank you.
Is the recommendation for 1.2 gram per kilogram resource included in your references? So that's just
1.2 resource.
Yeah. So Irene, this is your question. Are you referring to a protein or
protein? There are lots of references. The protein needs for older adults are higher than the RDIs, and there's a lot of literature on that. I'll be happy to get a short list, and I will make that available to you, and you can make it available to them.
Thank you. So those are the questions that we've had in the Q&A and in the chat. You are welcome to raise your hand or just unmute yourself and ask the question as well. Let me see. We just got one in the chat. How do you encourage populations, like diverse populations, to complete surveys or to provide feedback when they usually don't? For example, I've come across Latino communities that don't provide feedback because they appreciate the meals. So it seems like they think it would be rude to provide feedback that might be negative.
I can talk about the Hispanic population since I am a Hispanic person, and my mother is 83 years old and alive and well and lives in Puerto Rico. I think that you need to explain the importance, and that you are very appreciative of the fact that they put value on what we do for them, but we want to make it better. And I think most people can relate to that. And, you know, I don't know what kind of access you would have to family members, but sometimes it's nice to touch base with whoever drops them off or whoever picks them up to get some ideas. I know that for the most part, you're right. Hispanic people, if you're given something, they're very grateful people by nature. But if you keep saying, I appreciate that, I just want to do better, I need you to help me. If you get inspiring them, the fact that they're helping you, they're willing to help. Spanish people love to help. So if you're asking for help, they're going to give you help.
Thank you. We have time for one more question. I want to thank Dr. Munoz again for such a great webinar. I learned a lot, and as someone whose work centers around needs assessments, evaluations, satisfaction surveys, I was making notes. There's a lot of good takeaways from this session. I do want to ask that participants take a few minutes to complete our webinar evaluation. As we were told in today's presentation, we want to make sure that we're doing the best for you, and so your feedback would be greatly appreciated to help us strengthen the Nutrition and Aging Resource Center's webinar series. And again, thank you, everyone. The webinar was recorded and will be posted at a later date on the Nutrition and Aging Resource Center's YouTube page. We will share it when it's available via our e-newsletter. Thank you, everyone.